Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. Got some coffee. This morning, we'll be in Zechariah chapter 1, verses 1 through 21. In the 8th month of Darius' second year, the word of the Lord came to the prophet Zechariah, son of Berechiah, son of Iddo, as follows. The Lord was very angry with your ancestors. Therefore say to the people, the Lord who rules over all says, Turn to me, says the Lord who rules over all, and I will turn to you, says the Lord who rules over all. Do not be like your ancestors, to whom the former prophets called out, saying, The Lord who rules over all says, Turn now from your evil wickedness. But they would by no means obey me, says the Lord. As for your ancestors, where are they? And did the prophets live forever? But have my words and statutes, which I commanded my servants the prophets, not outlived your fathers? Then they paid attention and confessed, The Lord who rules over all has indeed done what he has said he would do to us because of our sinful ways. On the 24th day of the 11th month, the month Shabbat, in Darius' second year, the word of the Lord came to the prophet Zechariah, son of Berechiah, son of Iddo, as follows. I was attentive that night and saw a man seated on a red horse that stood among some myrtle trees in the ravine. Behind him were red, sorrel, and white horses. Then I asked one near by, What are these, sir? The angelic messenger, who replied to me, said, I will show you what these are. Then the man standing among the myrtle trees spoke up and said, These are the ones whom the Lord has sent to walk about on the earth. The writers then agreed with the angel of the Lord, who was standing among the myrtle trees. We have been walking about on the earth, and now everything is at rest and quiet. The angel of the Lord then asked, Lord who rules over all, how long before you have compassion on Jerusalem and the other cities of Judah, which you have been so angry with for these 70 years? The Lord then addressed good, comforting words to the angelic messenger who was speaking to me. Turning to me, the messenger then said, Cry out that the Lord who rules over all says, I am very much moved for Jerusalem and Zion, but I am greatly displeased with the nations that take my grace for granted. I was a little displeased with them, but they have only made things worse for themselves. Therefore, says the Lord, I have become compassionate toward Jerusalem, and will rebuild my temple in it, says the Lord, who rules over all. Once more, a surveyor's measuring line will be stretched out over Jerusalem. Speak up again with the message of the Lord who rules over all. My cities will once more overflow with prosperity, and once more the Lord will comfort Zion and validate his choice of Jerusalem. Once again I looked, and this time I saw 4 horns. So I asked the angelic messenger who spoke with me, What are these? He replied, These are the horns that have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. Next the Lord showed me 4 blacksmiths. I asked, What are these going to do? He answered, These horns are the ones that have scattered Judah, so that there is no one to be seen. But the blacksmiths have come to terrify Judah's enemies and cut off the horns of the nations that have thrust themselves against the land of Judah in order to scatter its people. Kind of a shorter passage. So this is in the 8th month of Darius' second year. So this is post-exile. And Zechariah is admonishing them to not be like their ancestors, who by no means would obey the Lord, and subsequently perished. I wonder if these horses and the messengers thereon are prophesying or stating a current peace that is the writers agreed with the angel of the Lord who was standing among the myrtle trees. We have been walking about on the earth, and now everything is at rest and quiet. And the I guess it seems, well, that the nations that punished Jerusalem for her sin, in particular Babylon and Persia, elsewhere, God says through the prophets that he was just a little angry with Israel, but Babylon and Persia went way farther than his anger then was warranted by what they were doing. So they also need retributive justice in order to make things right. So, carrying on. Revelation chapter 12, verse 1, through chapter 13, verse 1a. Then a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and with the moon under her feet, and on her head was a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was screaming in labor pain, struggling to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, a huge red dragon that had 7 heads and 10 horns, and on its head were 7 diadem crowns. Now the dragon's tails swept away a third of the stars in heaven and hurled them to the earth. Then the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that he might devour her child as soon as it was born. So the woman gave birth to a son, a male child, who is going to rule over all the nations with an iron rod. Her child was suddenly caught up to God and to his throne, and she fled into the wilderness, where a place had been prepared for her by God, so she could be taken care of for 1,260 days. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But the dragon was not strong enough to prevail, so there was no longer any place left in heaven for him and his angels. So that huge dragon, the ancient serpent, the one called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world, was thrown down to the earth, and his angels along with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, "The salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the ruling authority of his Christ have now come, because the accuser of our brothers and sisters, the one who accuses them day and night before our God, has been thrown down. But they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives so much that they were afraid to die. Therefore, you heavens rejoice, and all who reside in them. But woe to the earth and to the sea, because the devil has come down to you. He is filled with terrible anger, for he knows that he only has a little time." Now when the dragon realized that he had been thrown down to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to a male child. But the woman was given the 2 wings of a giant eagle, so that she could fly out into the wilderness, to the place God prepared for her, where she is taken care of, away from the presence of the serpent, for a time, times, and half a time. Then the serpent spouted water like a river out of his mouth after the woman, in an attempt to sweep her away by a flood. But the earth came to her rescue. The ground opened up and swallowed the river that the dragon had spewed from his mouth. So the dragon became enraged at the woman, and went away to make war on the rest of her children, those who keep God's commandments and hold to the testimony about Jesus. And the dragon stood on the sand of the seashore. Then I saw a beast coming up out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads, and on its horns were 10 diadem crowns, and on its heads a blasphemous name. So there you go. Yeah, I think in this case the woman represents Israel, given that crown of 12 stars representing either the tribes of Israel or the 12 apostles, or potentially both, being, yeah. And it feels as though the child whom she gave birth to, given that he's going to rule over all the nations with an iron rod, and this is a specific prophecy about Jesus, that I assume that's Jesus. And it looks as though there's, despite the dragon that is Satan pursuing her, God helps in his rescuing of Israel. Carrying on, Psalm 140, verse 1 through verse 13. O Lord, rescue me from wicked men. Protect me from violent men, who plan ways to harm me. All day long they stir up conflict. Their tongues would wound like a serpent. A viper's venom is behind their lips. Selah. O Lord, shelter me from the power of the wicked. Protect me from violent men who plan to knock me over. Proud men hide a snare for me. Evil men spread a net by the path. They set traps for me. Selah. I say to the Lord, you are my God. O Lord, pay attention to my plea for mercy. O sovereign Lord, my strong deliverer, you shield my head in the day of battle. O Lord, do not let the wicked have their way. Do not allow their plan to succeed when they attack. Selah. As for the heads of those who surround me, may the harm done by their lips overwhelm them. May he rain down fiery coals upon them. May he throw them into the fire. From bottomless pits they will not escape. A slanderer will not endure on the earth. Calamity will hunt down a violent man and strike him down. I know that the Lord defends the cause of the oppressed and vindicates the poor. Certainly the godly will give thanks to your name. The morally upright will live in your presence. And finally, Proverbs chapter 30, verse 17. The eye that mocks at a father and despises obeying a mother, the ravens of the valley will peck it out, and the young vultures will eat it. So there you go. Don't despise father and mother. Okay, well, hope you have a good day. Bye.